Good afternoon, Daniel and others, friends of the podcast. Um, Welcome for tonight's debate from Donald Trump and Vice President Harris, two of the most opposite characters in American history. One who's a demonstrated president who could get things done and prevent us from entering into wars, and kept our energy costs within reason. And we have another one who wants to just to continue on the trail of her former boss, Joe Biden, and who's leading us in a horrible direction. However, tonight the debate will shine a little something on that. Who knows? But in this election, like so many things, is that, and this debate tonight reflects it somewhat, is that this is going to be an emotional watch. It's very few people are going to walk away from it quoting historical facts or materials. They will say that oh, he was happy or she was happy or this, that, and the other thing, and it's just emotional. And that's how this election is. We have a tendency to drift away from what's important in our lives, which is the government. The government affects our lives more than probably any other thing in our lives, except our medical health and the like. But when you look at the cost of everything we do and is controlled by governments, and yet we elect our officials, it seems, not on what they, on their integrity or the individual character, but we elect them on what they look like, what they feel like. I don't like his smile. I think he's this or that. It's all emotional instead of logical. But in real life, when we're making decisions about certain things, we don't depend upon logic. We don't depend on emotion. We depend upon logic. If you go to the store and you buy a pound of hamburger and you take it home and you say, that's kind of light, and you find out that's only a half a pound. Will you go back to that store? No, they're cheating you. And people use that logic when they're driving down the highway and gas is 10 cents a gallon cheaper. Logically, if they're right next door to each other, they'll logically go to the one that's maybe 10 cents cheaper. That's logic. And logic will direct us to truth. And we need logic and truth in elections. But that's our responsibility to use logic and truth. And so let's go in to see what's happening in today's world. Donald Trump really, even though Carmela is it was way behind in one of the off the wall polls. But not saying it's gospel, just saying that she's so far behind Trump, and she's even behind Jill Stein of the Green Party. That's saying something. But it's not all good news for Donald Trump. We have some bad news here too. It seems that pillar of strength and integrity, Mike Pence, is not voting for Donald Trump. Well, he didn't say he's not supporting Donald Trump, so we'll see. And another loss of votes, Dick Cheney and his daughter, they're not voting for Donald Trump either. It's funny, the Democrats hated these two people when they were Republicans, and once they didn't like Donald Trump, they became noble characters. Speaking of moral characters, joining in the free for all is Reverend Al Sharpton, and in a recent video I happened to see that Al Sharpton questioned the vice president, and he said, in the area of reparations for the descendants of enslaved Africans, if elected, would you sign a bill if it came across your desk? And Carmela, giggling and proudly said, "When I'm elected president, I will sign that bill." Um, well, she says a lot of things. Of course, when she worked at McDonald's, supposedly one of their more famous employees, which they have no record of ever working there, and she's never mentioned it on her resume. And she grew up in an affluent area in Canada where her and her friends didn't work at McDonald's, and but she did learn the slogan of McDonald's, as she often says. As her smile, she said she learned working at McDonald's, and she'd say, um, "With your order, would you like large fries with that?" A little humor there. Um, there, but not everybody gets my humor or hers, because she had a big rally up in New Hampshire. New Hampshire, not a very big state. In fact, it's so small, I guess, that they have to import voters for Carmilla from the Commonwealth of Massachusetts, and so they loaded up I don't know how many buses. It was over a dozen buses, I guess, that they hauled them in from Massachusetts to help fill the half-full stadium or hall where Carmilla gave her political rally. And but the Democrats are trying to come out now. The Department of Justice, incidentally, just speaking of elections, said that they made a big arrest. They arrested this one woman according to Town Hall magazine. They found out she excuse me, had been arrested for voting in the 2016 election and the 22 election, and if she's prosecuted, this clampdown will add to, in the last 10 years, a total of 35 have been arrested. So this will bring the grand total to 36 people that have been arrested for voter fraud by the federal government. 36 people in 10 years. That's with the FBI looking at them, the CIA, Homeland Security, and everything else. But no problem arresting anybody from saying anything on Facebook or Telegram or one of the other speeches. But which leads us back into another subject, which is freedom of speech. And the freedom of speech is so critical and important. And we're getting so much of information, not by the news, the main system of the propaganda arm of our government and the networks and the like. We get it from the internet. And throughout the world, there's a drive now to curtail freedom of speech. The CEO, a multi-billionaire, he was a Russian citizen, basically, and he started Telegram, or he started another company very similar to Telegram in Russia. And when the Russians asked for some information, he wouldn't give it. And so he left, sold the company and left Russia, and he went to France and the United Arab Emirates, and had dual citizenships. So then, and Telegram is a very open source of information, and they're very unlimited with the restrictions of what you like to put on their system. And he landed in Paris, and they immediately arrested him, and he's been in jail, I believe, ever since. And so, and in Brazil, they blocked Twitter. They're blocking I think it's Rumble also in Brazil and other countries as well. And in England, yipes! If the clampdown in the United Kingdom and in France is just unbelievable. If you say something critical or insulting, you can go to jail for it. There's a case of a woman in the UK where her friend was killed in a car accident, and the friend's favorite song was a rap song. And in her memory, she pasted the song on Facebook, and she was arrested and put in jail, and she's now under some kind of probation and doing work for the community and all that for 4 years for a simple thing like that. And then in our country, the United States is the only country in the world that states in its laws that we have freedom of speech. And the government, and bear in mind that the Constitution was written not to protect us from the Russians or the Chinese or the Brits or the French. It was protected the American people from the American government. So the government cannot make laws to our freedom, to restrict our freedom of speech or our freedom to own, bear arms to protect us from, not the Chinese, not the Russians, but to protect us from the government if need be. And that freedom of speech that we take for granted is at stake throughout the world. And the United States is the beacon of light and strength that we have to ensure that freedom of speech. And in Washington, they don't like that freedom of speech. There's I look out on a little guy that we used to work under Bill Clinton. His name is Robert, as Rush Limbaugh would call him, Robert Reich. He stands 4.8, 4.9 inches. And he was an economic advisor, whatever it was, to he's a Harvard professor. And he is requesting the government to arrest Elon Musk because of his operation of Twitter. That should be frightening. Is when you have these people in power in Washington and they're asking to go after people for freedom of speech. That's a frightening time to be living in. And it even scared a little bit of, Scott Ritter is an example. He was a Marine major. He was a nuclear inspector working for the United States military in Iraq and with the Soviet Union to disable their nuclear weapons. And because he speaks what he feels, which is true, the FBI raided his house, stole all his documents or whatever. And so he's another victim of this restriction on speech. They took his passport, so he can't travel or anything like that. And he's not alone. Even Mark Zuckerberg from Facebook came out and apparently he called Donald Trump. According to Donald Trump, he called him and he said that he could not vote for Democrat, even though he spent $600 million in the last election against Trump, and maybe who knows how honest he is, but he said he could not vote for the Democrats anymore. And there's other people that are leaning Donald Trump's way. There again, he's like a wind in like the songs go. But Elton John seems to, in a recent interview, said that he liked Donald Trump. And he said that when Donald Trump played that song, Rocket Man, to the North Korean Kim Jong-un, Little Rocket Man, he said I thought that was brilliant. I've always been, and he said, I laughed out loud. And he said, I've always been very friendly towards Trump. So, of course, Elton John also played at Rush Limbaugh's wedding. So he's not adverse to logic, I guess we'll say. And logic and the law we'll get into a little bit here. Trump was supposed to be in front of Judge Merchan, the New York, who's going to sentence him this week, I believe it was. And he decided not to, it would be impartial for the judge to, during an election, to sentence one of the candidates, especially the President of the United States and a former president, to go to jail. So he said he'll wait till after the election before he considers any jail term, of which, because of the Supreme Court ruling, incidentally, that nullifies much of what Trump was in his court for, or at any rate. But at any rate, the judge has suddenly donned we'll call it a non-prejudicial opinion. But at the same time, it was noted in the New York Times that First American Legal is suing the New York Supreme Court Judge Merchan for refusing to turn over his financial disclosures amid questions about his daughter's work at a Democratic firm. The America First requested those records in June. And it's pretty clear that the judge's daughter and her clients stand to profit handsomely from the law for against President Trump. She apparently the daughter has made millions of dollars on this deal with Trump in front of the judge, and she's there every day during the trial as well. And and some of these legal situations go on and on about this, but kind of interesting in San Francisco, they have all these crimes. The guy kills a woman and they get away with it. They defecate on the streets, they get away with it. The drugs, everything else, no problem. And there's a $900 shoplifting free card, almost. So the stores are going broke. So who is the San Francisco founding fathers? They're going to clamp down on this illegal stuff. So they passed a law. They're passing a law to punish the businesses for leaving San Francisco. Not the criminals, but the businesses that are going broke with these people stealing and wrecking their place. And they're San Francisco, they're leaving in droves. And they want to make sure that this doesn't interfere with their what's going on over there. And it is humorous to see the shenanigans. And we'll have to see what San Francisco does with all this stuff here. Just mind-boggling, as we say. And just one of these topics is that abortion is going to be a big subject throughout this election, and it'll probably come up tonight in the debate as well. But remember that these people who are saying that Trump eliminated abortion, he did not. He, like other presidents before him, appointed justices to the Supreme Court. So did Obama. So did Biden. And that court, the Supreme Court, ruled that the federal government had nothing to do with abortions. It is not in the Constitution. It's not a right, not a privilege. It's up to the states if they want it. So 14 states today, it's illegal to have an abortion. There's another 36 states that you can't have an abortion. And President Trump has made a statement that it is something to the effect that he doesn't want any more, amendments to the Constitution. Let the states, if it's important to the states, elect the people in the states, and you'll get that number up from 14 or whatever. But it's not. He has not taken the stand except for he's been able to get 14 states to exercise their states' rights. Period. That's it. And the other thing that is kind of funny too is that the Russiagate is coming up again now. How they have all these Russian, Iran, infiltrating or casting doubt on our election and money. The Russians, even in Watergate, there's a few $1,000s, $10,000, $12,000 that was spent. It didn't even, I don't know, they got a vote on it. And who knows how it came from Russia. And but the FBI, the CIA, Homeland Security, the Justice Department, the Russians, they're having an influence on our elections. And they're wringing their hands about this few $1,000s. But nothing is said about the group called the PACs. I think it's called the AIPAC. It's AIPAC, which stands for the American Israeli Public Affairs Committee. Now, this PAC is all money from Israel that is being spent on our Congress. And up for this year, at the end of August, they have spent over $100 million influencing our Congress, our politicians. $100 million. And no one says anything about that. Oh, that's not influence on us. Here, well, if you don't think it's influence, all I have to do is go to Netanyahu's speech, and you'll see where he got 52 standing ovations, more than any American president ever has. $100 million goes a long way when you make it standing ovations. And in this election, the final point I just want to make is that one of the inspiring people in this election is RFK Jr. And as I said earlier in another podcast, how much I respected the movement that he has made. And I go back to his uncle's book, The Profiles in Courage, where these 8 senators in 1868 stood up and did not impeach the President Johnson in that election because it was the mob rule. And Kennedy wrote a book about it, and in his book, President Kennedy wrote the book, it shines the light on the courage and the convictions of those strong enough to stand up to and follow their own beliefs. And I think Bobby Kennedy is a fine example of that, is that he's putting the country ahead of his own personal desires, his own family, it seems, and friends. And as a result, the nastiest things have already come out about him, but my hat is off to Bobby Kennedy. And so we have the big debate tonight, and we will see what happens after that. And we will talk to you soon, hopefully. Good day.